John, welcome to the program.
Right, thanks, Steve.
How did you get into theater?
Boy, well, good question. So right now I'm in the Diary of Anne Frank,
Yes.
Or as we say, Anna Frank during the play.
Yes.
So I was in a play in high school,
Yeah.
South Pacific, and I in high school wanted to do a lot of different things,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure how I'd like theater, so I gave it a try, and I really enjoyed it. So I had one of the singing parts in South Pacific. Nothing Like a Dame.
Oh, of course, with the guys, all the guys get in there.
The sailors, the singing sailors, and
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And then in college, so I was focused on a business major. I had one of these spring semesters where you could take some electives, and I took Drama 101, which we called Hammers and Nails. It was a really good class because it took you from set building.
Oh, good.
To production.
You did everything.
Exactly. And then at the end of the semester, we actually put on a play.
Sure.
So it was a really good experience. Really enjoyed that. And then life happens. You know, you get out of college, and I went to law school and got married, had kids, and so I'm close to an empty nester. Not quite an empty nester, but close to, and having a little bit more time. And one of my coworkers is very involved in the theater.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, next time you audition for a play in Conroe, I'm going to come with you.
Right.
No intention that I would be cast.
But
right?
yeah,
because,
right.
So I remember coming with Christina to audition for Diary of Anne Frank, and I remember you very clearly because you were out handing the applications.
Yeah.
And I get this application, and Christina and I are sitting on the settee out there. And it was really kind of a comedic moment for me on several levels. I'm sitting there, and I don't have anything to write on. It reminded me of the scene in Men in Black with Will Smith, and he's got the pencil, and he's trying to, and he pulls up the table, so the only thing I could see was that round silver trash can.
Yes,
with the flat top. So I pull over the trash can, and I get the application. It says name, I can do that. Height, whatever, all that stuff. And then it said experience, and I'm like, I did this play like 75 years ago. I'm kind of embarrassed to even put it on there, but that's what I did. So I put on the South Pacific, the play in college. I don't even remember the name of it, but I think it was like Life and Times of Jesse James. Not one of the top 10. And then when it came to, what part, I just put any. I almost expected, quite frankly, to be asked to maybe do like ushering or something because my experience was so pathetic. And then, of course, Christina, my coworker who I came with, she had the face shot. She had a bag of costume changes and extra shoes. And I'm like, do you really need that tonight? She's like, I always bring it. And the makeup bag and all this. So she was like on the other end of the spectrum from me. And so I filled out this application with my pathetic experience and handed it in really with no intention, but it was for the experience, right? And lo and behold, I got a call from Meredith asking me to play the part of Mr. Crawler, and I was ecstatic. Christine, on the other hand, didn't get cast.
So. Well, and it's hard because casting it's a hard thing.
It is a hard thing.
You hurt to hurt anyone. You just want But the reality of theater and community theater is that short guys.
Well, and that's
the ladies hate that, and I get that.
Yeah,
because there's so much competition for the ladies.
Exactly,
parts.
And it's funny because that's what she had told me. She said, it's the likely scenario is that you'll be cast and I won't because there are a lot of females who show up. It's very competitive before the men. There's just not that many men. And I always hear that, well, we had to cast this role as a woman or we had to have a woman play a man or something like that, which I guess would be good for Victor Victoria, but you don't always have that in every play. But so anyway, so the good news is she got cast in the lead role over at Playhouse 1960. So that was everything. It had a good ending. It worked out, and I've just been thrilled to be in this production. So that's kind of a long answer to your question.
Well, I've got to. 1960 it was one of the few theaters that actively partnered with us when we started.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually put the word out to a lot of theaters. This is what we're doing. This is our philosophies and stuff like that. But 1960, in practical terms, was the only one that actually came out and helped.
And that's good because you would like to think that theater would be a collaborative effort.
Not in Houston.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I remember you saying that.
With exceptions, okay.
And it's a shame because it's you think about Houston being what the third or fourth largest metroplex in the country.
Huge amount of community theater.
Huge
amount of theater.
Community theater, huge
independent
demand. Potential for large audiences. There's really no reason for it to be anything other than collaborative, but I understand that things tend to get a little bit competitive. Yeah. But so the co-directors for Diary of Anne Frank, Bonnie Hewitt and Meredith Gaines, I know do a lot of work at 1960.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And speak very fondly of that. In fact, I think there was some trading of props, the ceremonial exchange of props back and forth. So,
absolutely.
So that's good. I mean, that's very encouraging.
Yeah. So a lot of folks, like I said, have done stuff at 1960. Well, we've done stuff at 1960. It's been a while, obviously, but but they were very helpful in the begining days. Yes. They still continue to be helpful. Yeah. The big time I remember is there was a time, I don't know, it's been several years now. They were going to have a show, and they had to cancel it.
Right.
And we had a show that just finished. Ooh. So we ended up taking, Always Patsy Cline there.
Okay. Wow.
Even though we knew we were going to lose money.
Wow.
Because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. I mean,
it was the right thing to do. We said, I know we're going to lose money.
Right.
And we did.
Right.
But that wasn't the point. The point was there to support them because they'd always been there to support us from the beginning.
Yeah. So I think it's a smart long-term play.
Yeah.
So like you say, in the short term, you're losing money, but in the long term, the goodwill that you've built is going to pay dividends. And so I think for any good business, and let's face it, you and I were talking before the cameras came on,
like it or not,
that it is the theater business. You know, everybody focuses on theater, but there is a business aspect that has to be met in order
nobody
to
likes that part.
Have the longevity, exactly. So,
that's right. Yeah. Let's talk about laws. What's your specialty?
So right now I'm in education, working over at Lone Star College as a deputy general counsel. So I've been practicing for longer than I care to admit. So I went to school in Houston, and I started out as a trial attorney.
Okay.
And so that's why people said, well, you should get into the theater because there's so much theatrics in the courtroom, and believe me, there is, and outside the courtroom as well, and in the jury deliberations. But so I was a trial lawyer for several years, and then I went in-house working for an insurance company, and got married, had kids. We found ourselves kind of progressively moving north, which I think happens a lot in Houston. You either move north or you move south or you move west. And so we've been living in Montgomery County now for, I guess, about 20 years.
Wow.
And so we lived in Woodlands for a while, currently live in the Conroe area. And working for Lone Star College to me at this point in my career was a conscious move. It's not making as much money.
Right.
But it's giving back to the community,
right?
Because the college has such an enormous impact economically on the community and the enrichment of the lives of students and their families, and it's just a really good thing to participate in. So
and it's a great way to cut the cost of your education.
Cut the costs, and I tell you what, it's right now Lone Star College has an enrollment of about 100,000 students.
It's incredible.
So it's huge. It's larger than many four-year institutions.
Wow.
And you're exactly right. I think it's an economical way for students to get the first 2 years or get that associate's degree and then transfer on and get their bachelor's. But so it's good at this point. Having started my career where it was all about making money,
right?
And I'd like to end my career where it's all about giving back to the community. And I think being a part of the Crighton Theater is a good way to do that as well.
Absolutely. So, well, that's why we're here. I mean, and that was the other thing about people ask, what do we do?
Exactly.
And we tell them, nominally, we're a theater company. But at the end of the day, really, we're trying to be a good corporate person.
Yeah.
Because we have to give back to the community. So, like I said, after this, we'll be here at Kids Fest and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah, the Kids Fest is going on this weekend.
Yeah, because people are like, no, that's not. Theater's how you make money.
Right.
In this case, even though we're a nonprofit.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we still have to be a good corporate citizen. So,
yeah, exactly. And being a part of the city and a part of a lot of the growth.
Yes.
Because I remember, so I was born in Houston, and I remember when Conroe, when I was born, was really considered a very rural
1960 was the limits of town, right?
I remember when 1960 was one road going each way.
Greenspoint was actually a nice place to go,
yes,
right?
Yes,
remember, it was the place at the time?
Yeah, Greenspoint, because it was green, right? It was Greenspoint.
Right, yeah.
And 1960 was a farm road,
right?
Farm to market road. And then it just, they keep adding lanes. I don't know, what is it now, 50 lanes each way or something, but it's huge. I'd never go down there. I don't go south of Luetta personally.
Try not to.
But anyway, I've seen the city grow tremendously since the 60s, and now I'm seeing a lot of the same growth here in Conroe, and I think the theater is has been and is going to be a big part of that continued growth, because you have to have the arts, I think, in order to kind of have the soul.
Absolutely.
The city is the kind of the infrastructure, and I think the theater is really the heart and soul of what makes the city vibrant.
It's amazing that in terms of dollars, we're a very small part of the economy, locally. But in terms of impact on lives, although that's not ostensibly what you're out to do, we do end up doing that, and in its most surprising way. It's never what you expect, and it's never whom you expect. And and like I said, everyone's got their own story. You don't find it out till later.
And the thing is, I think the thing I like about the Crighton Theater is because I remember a time in Houston when I first started practicing law, and I worked downtown. And it used to be the saying that they kind of rolled up the streets at 6 o'clock, because you didn't have the baseball stadium, you didn't have the alley was there, but it was not a big thing. Jones Hall was not big, of course. You didn't have the hobby center, and then the arts started coming in, the sports started coming in, and so now you gave people a reason to come to town in the evening. The Crighton Theater gives people a reason to come to Conroe in the evening.
And we need more reasons for people to come.
Yes.
Can't be just theater, but yes, and they're trying.
Exactly.
They are trying. It's a slow process.
Right.
So throughout life, I mean, where have you traveled to?
Oh gosh, I love to travel, and I think that the thing with the constraints of work, I don't get to travel nearly as much as I'd like. I hope to travel more. So. I have had the opportunity to travel to Paris and London. I love those two cities.
I love them too.
I love going into the Caribbean. I used to scuba dive quite a bit.
Really?
So I spent some time in Grand Cayman and the Bahamas and of course
you don't do that anymore?
Cozumel. So when I got married, my wife does not like scuba diving.
Okay.
I remember my first Christmas gift to my wife was a scuba. I mean, everything, the respirator, the BC, and so we went to Grand Cayman, and long story short, it was a complete disaster. So I said, you know what? We'll just stay above water. We'll just stay above water for the rest of our lives. And but I do miss it, and I would at some point like to do some more scuba diving. But it's just sometimes you have to make sacrifices.
Sure.
But I used to love that back in the days where you could just go with the guys and just go whatever, take a weekend and go to Cozumel or something. But so I love that going to Mexico. I love history. So I like going to the museums, the historical sites, things like that. Yeah. So I love to travel. Any excuse I can get to travel, I take it.
Yeah, London's got plenty of that for museums.
London.
Spend the entire time doing that.
I think London and Paris are both great walking towns.
Yes.
You talk about like Chicago, New York City.
Right.
Great walking town. San Francisco. I love
great
San
walking
Francisco,
town. Yes,
where you
absolutely.
You just park the car and start walking around, or maybe take a trolley or something, or a subway. But that's what I really enjoy, is coming into a city and kind of getting to know the city from the street level.
Right.
So I've done that in fact, this morning with Conroe. It's like a lot of times we kind of come in, we come out, and during the Kids Fest, I walked around and took my daughter over to the Chamber of Commerce so she could get signed in because she's volunteering, and kind of walked around. I was reading an interesting article the other day about Bonnie and Clyde. I don't know if you read that one. I think it was in the Courier. Yes. And they were talking about how he needed to get his V8 tuned up. And you probably know more about this.
No, I've heard the story.
Didn't you guys do a
we
thing
did
on
a Bonnie and Clyde thing as well, yes.
And so he had stolen this car, and it was a V8 engine, and back then, of course, it was very rare. Yeah, that was the most powerful engine, very rare. Right. And he was having a hard time finding somebody who could tune this thing up for him, right? Because he really needed to go. Why, I have no idea. But
gee, I can imagine.
and so he found a mechanic here in town, and while he was having the car tuned up, I think he came to some little, I guess, diner that was across from the courthouse. And they were talking about that. But I thought it was interesting. But it's, a lot of times, you think of Conroe, you don't really think of the history. But also with George Strake and the
we got Strake, we got the flag, we've got
the flag,
exactly. The Bonnie and Clyde. There's actually quite a bit of history, and people have talked. The Craig Campobello has really talked about trying to make Conroe a historical destination.
Yes,
and because when people come to town, they go like, "There's no, what's the walking tour? Where's the ghost tour?
What's the attraction?
What's the attraction? And I think we could fix it up to do that.
Yes,
and we should.
And I thought that was really interesting, and it's just because I think a lot of times we walk by places or we drive by places, and we don't realize that something really significant happened here.
Yes,
because either we just don't know or we just don't
care, too busy, whatever.
But I think that's really fascinating, and I think that's something that could really be developed here in Conroe.
So do you know Larry Forster?
I know the name. He's
another lawyer, but he's really into history. He would rather be doing history and history research and disseminating that information.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny thing. So, when we go to college, or at least when I go to college, it's like my parents were like, you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be a lawyer, you've got to do
They're concerned about you paying the bills.
Exactly.
Right.
I think if I had to do it over again, I would have been a history major instead of a business major, although business is a very good major, because I do enjoy the history, but it's kind of like you kind of get into whatever you're doing, practicing law, or engineering, or whatever, and some of you're told to kind of put your toys away and all that, and so then as you get older, you're kind of like, well, maybe dust this off a little bit and maybe do a little bit more.
So, as we get older, too, we become more philosophical.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And hopefully we have the time to study the history and appreciate it, especially where we are in life. Yeah, so do you have that time now?
I think you're right. Yeah, a little bit more time. And, the thing is, I think as we get older, I think our appreciation of history grows. Because I think when you're young, you're running around so much and you don't really think about where you've been. It's kind of like the scene from Star Wars where Yoda's talking to Luke Skywalker, and he says, here you are, you're always running around, you're not paying any attention to where you've been, what's around you. Right. And I think that's true for a lot of us, certainly true for me. Yeah. And then you get to a point in life where you say, wait, let me stop and kind of look around and kind of reassess and see, what's it all about? Exactly. Alfie. Right.
So travel, what other hobbies do you have?
Oh gosh, my wife and I play tennis.
Good.
We like doing anything where we get outside, do that, and I mentioned the travel. Now theater is becoming a hobby.
Can you get her into
do that?
Can you get her into it?
I was talking to her this morning, and I said she's really good with makeup, so I could see her role being something more like with a crew backstage, something like that. But right now, she's going back to school, taking some courses. Of course, so. Yes. Which is good. I think that's incredible. So I always told her throughout our marriage that you're never too old to learn. Yes. Go back, especially work for Lone Star College. Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of education. So she's finally taking my advice. She's going back and taking some courses at Lone Star. So I told her, well, when you get some time, maybe you can think about doing a little bit of
and
this.
And then you can at least be here together.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Well, there's a lot of couples, that are involved here, and
it works better that way. You know where your hubby is.
Well, yeah, you know where your spouse is, and I think the thing is, you can share rides, you can do whatever, share camaraderie, and I think it's really kind of a team building exercise, So I think it's I guess the couple that does theater together stays together. Is that
some of that one. Hey, I remember coming home from I was working on dissertation, and it'd be 2 a.m. Carol would be home because he's working on set. Right. So he was there longer than I was there.
Exactly.
If I wanted to see my wife, I had to go do it too. So that's the way it was.
Yeah, that's really, to me, the unsung, because it's like, so at the end of the play, the cast comes out, does the bows, and, we to the sound and lighting and backstage. But there's, I think, the one takeaway I have from this experience is never really having had an appreciation for all the work that goes into putting on a production. You know, with the directors, all of the preparation before you even
usually a year before.
Sometimes your auditions, exactly, because you talk about the business end. You know, you've got to get the rights to the play, and you've got to get the timing and,
get the word
and all
out.
that, the props and getting everybody in the right, to getting a good stage manager, sound and lighting people, and makeup, the set building. I mean, which was, you can see this tremendous set behind us was a tremendous exercise. And so I think that was one takeaway for me, is all of the work that goes into this, which the audience sees the finished product.
Right.
It's kind of like, to me, buying a car.
Right.
And you're kind of like, well, this is a wonderful piece of equipment, but you don't appreciate that at some point there was some poor soul, you know, who was screwing some little part, you know, into it, and it took this team of hundreds, maybe thousands.
Well, to integrate to get you the product.
Exactly.
But the interesting thing is, we're all volunteer.
Yes,
somebody got paid there, so it has to be. It's not for the money, obviously.
To me, that's the beauty of it, because people are doing it for self-fulfillment, or they want to give back to the community. I think there's more passion than if we were just showing up and we're you know, punching a time card and saying, okay, I want to make my 15 an hour or whatever.
Right.
You know that the people who are here are dedicated, because they're not doing it for money, or they're not doing it for, you know, really, you know, I talk with a lot of the actors in the cast, and they're really doing it for just, you know, their own kind of self-fulfillment, and it's not really about promoting yourself or doing anything like that, just feeling really good about the product you've created. So that's good, and I've been really impressed with you know the cast. I mean, this is
we don't. There's still some people we don't know, but you know well.
Yeah.
But a lot of them we've known for years. And you know, look back to community theater. Sometimes get a bad rap, but the odd thing is, you know, if we've done it more, you realize the community part. This is what we is. That at the end of the day, we're here just to have a good time together. As community, as family.
Exactly.
If you don't overuse that term, but that's true. You know, and then hopefully we also do a good product at the same time. But let's have fun together, so we have some shared experiences, you know, you carry forward with.
It's a very fulfilling experience, and it's I think it's kind of a shame you get to the last weekend, which is this is it for us, and then everybody kind of goes their way. But I'm looking forward to seeing people as we continue this journey.
And it's true. Sometimes you just, because you're not together, and that, you know, that during that shared experience, you know, that sometimes, you fall away, but a lot of times, you know, you go see friends when what are they doing now?
Exactly.
Know? And it does hopefully carry over to other productions,
so.
And just, you know, off time.
As well. Definitely.
So how did you decompress?
You know, boy, that's a good question. How do you decompress? I like to read. Right. So I like to read about history, you know, how do you decompress? Because that's the thing is.
I mean, do you binge Netflix? Do you?
I don't do any of that stuff. I actually stay pretty busy. I don't really watch a lot of TV because you know, work. Practice of law is it's a very laser focused type thing. So, you know, during the day that's that, and then usually in the evening I try to stay busy doing something. I'm not a big Netflix guy. Probably more reading, I think, than anything else, which is kind of a lost art. I actually have books at the house, and they take up all this space. And my wife is like, you know, there's this new invention. It's called the Kindle. But I tried it, and I can't get used to this. And which is the funny thing, because at work I'm very technologically savvy. Right. You know, I'm kind of like this baby boomer who is pushing the paperless initiative. At our office to the millennials, who it should be the other way around. But I find when I get back home, and I don't know why this is, I'm very old school. I like to pull out the book and kind of read it, and I guess it's kind of weird, but
it's a different experience.
Yeah, it is. I think maybe I decompress better with a book than I do with a Kindle, I guess, to answer your question.
They've done studies where you can read faster from a print book than you can from electronic media. I know Apple originally, you know, when they were doing the processing, so, you know, what is a page?
Right.
It's usually white background, black, you know, text. But most of the time on the screen it's the opposite. But for whatever reason, you know, and of course that has changed over time. But even still, I do find that I can read faster in print than I can on the computer. Even though I love it and it's a necessary tool for the business. But no,
I think it's what you're used to.
Absolutely.
You know, I never see my kids reading a book. I mean, it's quite frankly, it's more on the phone.
Yes.
Or an iPad or something like that. You know, which is fine. I mean, times change, but so I guess at some point I'm gonna have to decide what to do with all these books because I literally have hundreds.
Right.
And sometimes I will go back and you know, read like a book on Sam Houston or something like that, and I'll pull it out and I'll read it, and I just I've gotten to the point where I like recycle a lot of these things because my wife was like, you know, this is ridiculous. You know, we've got all these historical magazines and books and things like that, and it takes up a lot of space. You don't really see people in the library anymore. I don't know. Have you ever been to a library lately? Everything is so electronic.
But they have such great resources.
They have great resources.
You know, but you're right. I don't know. I mean, we do get a lot of traffic, you know, through different libraries. But you're right. I think the shared experience where you can find a literary asset. I think people tend to, I'm going to buy it off Amazon, or I'm going to read, like I said, read a PDF.
Yeah.
But not necessarily, let's go to the library.
Yeah.
Where, hey, our taxpayer dollars are paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in school and the library was so crowded you couldn't find a place to sit, and now it's like you go in there and it's like a morgue, and it's really a shame, and maybe somebody needs to take a look at it. Maybe the focus needs to be less on the bound books and more on the electronic, like maybe just have like a bunch of
and they are trying. I mean, there's something, but, you know, you can rent out.
Like that.
I guess you can electronically check out electronic books.
Yeah.
Some libraries you can do that.
E-books.
Right here?
Yeah.
E-books. I think you can do that here, right?
Yeah, good. All right. Fantastic. Yeah.
Let's talk about that because interesting is the whole, I will say, addictive, psychologically addictive quality of technology.
Yes.
Okay. And I admit that, you know, and as long as you're aware of it, that's one thing. But I see people that they are so tied to fill in the blank, their phone, their Kindle, whatever.
Right.
And that is useful, no doubt.
Right.
But the psychological addictive qualities, or how it can become that, and that's true of anything, though.
Yeah.
So, do you find things where your behaviors within yourself and kind of like, oh, really, I really don't want to. You know, I see I'm going down this path. And I'm not talking about specific technology because we're talking education.
Right,
you know, technology is going to be the salvation of education. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really fortunate because my boss at Lone Star, we're both very philosophical about what is the direction of education. Like the traditional 4-year model, is that kind of an anachronism? Is that the way things are going to be? 20 or even 10 years from now. How is that evolving? And I guess, you know, kind of getting back to the point I made before, I feel like technology should work for us. It shouldn't rule us. And I think that's why at work I like seeing how technology can work for us. But then when I get home, you know, it's like I said, I'm not. I had gotten the Alexa, and quite frankly, I only ask her what the weather is. You know, that's the only thing. It's a horrible relationship.
What did she say?
Yeah, she's like, the weather in Conroe is 10% chance of rain. I'm like, thanks. We live in Houston. You know, that's what I told my son. You know, he said, Dad, you know, what should I do for a living? I said, well, you know, you should become a weatherman because it's the only job you get paid for being wrong. I mean, think about it. You know, and in Houston, you can just get up and say, today 10% chance of rain. 4 days out of 5, you're spot on. You know, and so I just found that at home I don't use the technology as much as I do at work. But maybe it's taking a break from technology. You know, so it's not a bad thing.
So your kids are becoming what? What do you think they were going to become?
Well, so actually, my son's an air traffic controller, and so he went into the Air Force, and which I think is a great thing. That's one of my big regrets that I didn't, because actually I was in ROTC in college, and so he went into the Air Force and is now working for the FAA as an air traffic controller, and it was really interesting because seeing him grow up. And he would play these computer games where you're multitasking, where you're having to do the economical part. You know, you have to garner the resources, and then you're being attacked by some army. And he had these screens, 3 screens, and he's going like this. It's like something out of a movie. And it would be nice if there were an application that could utilize these skills. And so he ended up going into air traffic control. And he loves it, which is great because you hear all these horrible stories about air traffic controllers. And And believe me, he's seen some things that would make your hair curl. But he's very good at it, and he's very passionate. My daughter, on the other hand, so my wife is very artistic in terms of like the painting and stuff like that, the woodworking. And so my daughter, I think, my older daughter, has that artistic. So she's a graphic designer. So she works up in Dallas as a graphic designer. So that's real good. And then my younger daughter, Caitlin, who's working at the Kids Fest, is working part-time for the city and going to school part-time. So she's doing well, too. So we're very fortunate. All of our kids are very, very different, but it's, very proud of them. So doing well.
Good.
So despite my efforts.
So what do you see yourself doing in the next couple of years?
I think so. Having done a drama, I would like to do a comedy, and I'd like to do a musical.
Well, you say you used to sing, so
MASH. Really, I want to audition for MASH. I want to do MASH, and I think look for a musical where I can kind of dip my toe into the water a little bit and just look for the right opportunity. But I definitely want to stay involved. I mean, it's like you say, it's a relatively small community.
It's very small. Yes.
You got to, I love the stories backstage where, remember, Steve, when you and I were in this, and we did this, and remember the night that somebody forgot their cue, and the director was running around the building trying to find and I love these stories. I mean, it's just hilarious stuff, but it's the human element of theater that I think makes it, to me. The audience is out here kind of seeing this product, but what happens
in the
back is hilarious. I mean, it's a true comedy and that's what I love about this play, because it's obviously the Diary of Anne Frank it's a very serious subject matter, but we have so much fun, just in terms of putting on the production, and it's very, in my part, I kind of come and go throughout the play, and you can hear people laughing, you can hear people crying when we, as you know, after the play, we come out and we greet the audience. And I had the opening night as people from work, and you could tell it was just an emotionally exhausting experience for them. But they, Monday when we got back to work, everybody was talking about how great it was, how much they enjoyed it, what a great experience, and it's something that. But for me being in the play, they probably wouldn't have come. But now that they've seen this, and I think that's good for the theater, because I think it's kind of one of those things where once you get that first time patronage, you have a greater opportunity.
They get a taste for it, because there are people that they never would come here.
Exactly.
For a friend or whatever, and
exactly.
Hey, this is interesting. I might want to do more of this.
I never knew I'd like it till I tasted it.
Exactly.
You hear that all the time, and so
thank you, for bringing them, because that's how it is. Just networking, bring more people in.
That's the thing. Happens. Yeah, it's good for both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know Lone Star also has. What campus?
So I'm in the system office, so it's kind of like the corporate office. So we're of course in the Woodlands, very close to the Montgomery campus. Montgomery campus has a very vibrant theater program. In fact, a couple of the cast members from Diary of Anne Frank are also doing a Shakespeare festival over there. So that's very good. So it's like I said, it's good having this interaction between the various organizations. I think that's very healthy. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Where are we at? You play any instruments? Because you said you used to sing.
Yeah. So I play some guitar, and so when I was in high school, we had a garage band.
Yes. What you do in high school? That's what we do.
Yeah. We almost had as many different names as we had the different musicians. Because somebody leaves, somebody comes in, and it's like you get a new name and all this. So that was fun. And then so to me, music is kind of a personal thing. So I like to sing in the shower and all that.
Do you compose anything, or do you just play other people's songs?
I pretty much play other people's songs. Yeah, I don't think I'm like that imaginative. I mean, that's it's one of those. You think about the things that you would love to do, like write a song.
Sure,
I would love to write a song.
Yeah,
and it's like. Boy, that's a skill set I'd love to have. But maybe it'll happen one day. I don't know.
We just do it.
Right now, I'm gathering material. So let me
absolutely should do. I mean, we have a lot of friends that wouldn't be writers,
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe they'll never be professional or
write a book
sell something,
or
although it's certainly easier to do that. But,
yeah.
But just the whole act.
Or getting published something like that.
Do you journal?
Yeah, yeah. There's some. Yeah. So
when did you start that, your journaling?
Well, it's kind of off and on process. I think it's just kind of a function of kind of what's going on in your life.
Sure.
And I think, like I said, as I get a little bit older, I have a little bit more of appreciation for memorializing things, and as opposed to just being so busy all the time. But I would love to I talk about that. Love to write a book at some point. And
what would you write about?
I love history, and like I said, I think there's tremendous source material in Conroe to do something, writing about history in Conroe, or even like a children's book or something like that. Writing just some different things,
right.
And that's kind of one of the a couple of the bucket list things I've got.
So your motivation with it is because you would research, say, a historical topic, and then you simply share that experience and not.
I think one of the things I'm struggling with is I think writing like a novel or whether it's a historical fiction or nonfiction, of course. It's got to be a subject matter that appeals to people.
Right.
Like if I write about the evolution of the candy industry in Conroe, probably won't sell a lot is it partly it's therapeutic for you? Yes,
and then hopefully people will appreciate that experience and the stories, because really storytelling is about. So
you could have a library of unpublished books, I guess. But I guess the idea is at some point you write something that has enough mass appeal that you get published. I think that's what I would like to do. Something where you walk into the publisher and they're like, oh this is what we need.
Even that has changed too, because people talk about originally you'd write a book, you'd submit it, okay, fine, and then okay, if we decide we're going to publish, then they cover a lot of costs. But it seems like a lot now they want you to do the promotions and stuff like that. Of course, it is easier to self-publish now through Amazon and stuff like that. But still, at the end of the day, they want you to get out there and push the book. Even music industry, same thing.
Yeah,
they don't just say, "Oh, you're talented, we're signing you."
Right.
Now they want to see that you have a following.
Yes.
So now you've got to be building your following so that this could work. Right. And I'm not saying that's the only way to make, but
I mean, it's good business sense. I mean, you don't want to publish a book where the author is not going to show up,
right?
Or you don't want to front a band where they're just stone drunk all day or something like that. I mean, you got to be smart about it. I appreciate that, yeah, I mean, these are all, and that's the thing, you get to the point in life where you got the house paid off, you got the mortgage paid off, you've got this, you got that, and you can stop and say, okay, now what are some fun things I'd like to do? So I'm not quite there, but, getting there. But, of course, with the spouse's permission. So
well, it helps if they both can get into that.
Exactly.
The shared experience.
Like you and Carolyn, I mean, you guys both have a passion for the theater.
Yeah, we have different sides that we tend to work, but at least it's still the same objective.
But it's collaborative, and it's like when you can talk about what you're doing at the theater, but then when you leave the theater, you have a common bond. And this is almost like having a child, isn't it?
It is a child, and
it's like it grows, and you have like the growing pains and all this, and you have the various issues that come up, and
nobody gives you the manual on how.
Nobody gives you the manual, and you got to kind of reinvent as you go. And you talked about the renovation and everything, and it's just kind of seeing this thing come together and grow. It's got to be very fulfilling,
It's sometimes hard to see in the moment. I mean, if you step back and you look at it and go, wow, this is the experiences where we've been. But usually when you're in a moment, like I said, anything else, you're more about this deadline or what's going wrong and how do we fix this. But if you get a chance to step back, then you can go, oh yeah, this is. And interestingly enough, the times that we get to step back is when we get to see other theater.
Yes.
Which means other places, whether go to London or New York. Right. But even community theaters in back east, Virginia, or just other places. Yeah. How do they do it?
Right.
What limitations do they have, and how do they get around those limitations? That in itself those are life lessons.
You know, and that's the thing. I bet you could write a book on the business of theater. See, that's something I would buy, because I would find that very interesting, is how you make it work, day to day. You got to pay the utilities, you got to do this, you got to the insurance, all the different issues that people don't think about. They walk in here, oh, what a great building.
Well, most people, like as an engineer, our dream was to have your own engineering firm kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, their dream is to have their own theater company.
Right.
But there are a whole series. It's just like a small business person. There's so many different talents that you require.
Right.
No one person has all those talents.
Sure.
So you're building the team,
right,
which is continually changing.
Right.
Of how to get this organization to
right.
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 So
but that's the challenge. I mean, if you walked in one day and you had everybody you needed and you had all the money you needed,
probably wouldn't be very much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like, okay, all right, yeah, after day one, okay, what do we do?
Right,
everything's done for us. But that's not life. That's not reality. That's not the way it works. That's I think that's that's the other thing, because I think as like me, as I get toward the end of my career, I want to stay active, because I think that's the key is
how you stay alive.
Longevity. I mean, it's staying active, and it's getting involved in this and getting involved in that, as opposed to sitting on a sofa,
watching TV, which you don't do anyway.
Watching Oprah, but you don't whatever. See, I couldn't even tell you what the shows are. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I think I'm like the only person.
No,
who does
I haven't
not
seen it either. I heard of Game of Thrones, and now they're in the 8th season. It's like Homeland, 8th season. It's like I thought I just heard about that. I usually catch a lot of these series after they've. Well,
that's what my wife does. So she hears about how great they were, and then she gets on Netflix, and she'll be like, "I'm in the 3rd season of Homeland or whatever," and I'm like, Homeland Schmomeland. It means nothing to me. But then my daughter comes in town, who is a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I like to participate in the conversation, but when they're talking Game of Thrones, I really don't know. The lady with the dragons and giving birth to the dragons. I mean, it's kind of an odd thing to me. And I'm kind of like, okay, you're going into the 8th season and nobody's won this war yet? I mean, are they so pathetic? I mean, they keep, what's going on? So she said, they're killing each other off. They're killing, well, who's left? Who's left for the 8th season? And it almost sounds to me like a last man standing type thing, but it obviously great ratings, so who am I to judge?
Well, look at it. We've got great houses for this weekend. And what's coming on this weekend? Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
Sold out.
Yeah. So it's like, and we've had great audiences here. So, I guess that is the thing that is appealing to me, because I would never want theater to become a lost art, and it's very gratifying to see so much participation, in such an electronic world where people like to go to the movie theater and have everything spoon-fed to them. People coming to live community theater and actually watching and laughing and crying, and that to me is it gives me a lot of hope.
It's not just a shared experience, but it's a symbiotic relationship between each audience that you don't get by watching something electronically. I'm not saying that there are groups of fans that love Game of Thrones and they can talk about it. I'm pretty sure they're going to have conferences, that kind of stuff, conventions, but it's not the same.
No, because electronic to me is like it's a one-dimensional medium.
Yes.
I'm just watching this thing happen, and here at the theater, it's multi-dimensional.
Yes.
And that's the thing I think the audience doesn't realize. I always hear, "Oh, the audience was great tonight." I felt like I was feeding off the audience.
Yes.
It was improving my performance.
Yes.
And it's a very, like you say, symbiotic relationship that you don't get with the electronic. And I think that's kind of the one thing that I really it's really kind of disappointing to me that the things have become so electronic and so sterile that I think a lot of the younger people these days kind of miss that.
Right.
One thing I've liked about this play is we have a lot of young people in this play, so it does give me a lot of hope that that young people will continue to experience kind of this, what some people may call like an old school type thing, but see that it's multidimensional and that there is value to it, and so that's very encouraging. Yeah.
And like you said, and we have gotten some younger audiences, universally, and they don't know the story. Not everyone knows the story.
Yeah, last night I was speaking with a young person, which to me these days everybody's a young person.
Well, for us, we could be the grandparents, right?
But so coming out, and she was asking questions, and I think there's a lot of fascination with this. And my wife, she's always asking, how was it last night? What happened? And I've always got a story. Oh, you won't believe this person did this, or this person said that, or I was talking with somebody, and so it just generates a lot of excitement. So it's a fun thing, and you come away from this experience with a lot of great stories. And I like to tell stories.
Sometimes the stories aren't the fun ones, but
I know.
We kind of wear them like badges of honor.
Exactly, because when something somebody goes and throws up in the bathroom or something. I mean, it's not a funny thing at the time, but then after you can say, oh, wasn't that funny? So and so did this, and like the thing with the director running around the building. I don't know if you heard that story, but I won't mention any names. But it was it's one of those things where now you can look back and laugh at it, but at the time I'm sure it was a very traumatic.
Yes.
The world is, oh my God, the world is over. It's going to kill the play tonight, and the thing is, it turned out okay.
Yes.
I think the best piece of advice I've ever been given is half the things you worry about are not worth worrying about, and the other half turn out okay. And when I look back at my life, at thing, whether it was a trial that didn't go quite as well, or maybe a relationship or something like that, in the end, it all turns out okay.
Right.
Here we are doing an interview. Life is good.
Right.
And it's great. Enjoy the ride.
So what lessons, you just gave us one lesson, but do you have other lessons for the next generations or note to self, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If you had to talk to your younger self.
Yes.
What would you tell?
That is a great question, and I'm glad you asked that question, because it's a conversation I have a lot with my kids that I wish my older self could have come back. And I think the short answer is follow your passion. And I'll tell you the reason, because, like I said, when I was growing up, there was a lot of pressure, social pressure. Be this, be that. You have to follow this. You have to be a lawyer. You have to go to college right after high school and go to law school right after college, and which was all great, because I have no complaints. I'm very happy with where I am now. I think the advice was sound from an economical standpoint, but I think the only way to really be good at what you're doing is to find something you're passionate about. And so that's the thing I've always told my kids. I said, look, if you're passionate about being a doctor, great. If you're passionate about being a lawyer, great. But don't feel like you have to do one of those things because you want to earn the big bucks, or you want to impress people, or you saw it on TV and you think it's a fun thing to do, because believe me, it's not at all like it is on TV. If you're passionate about, like my daughter Taylor, graphic design is not known as being, not many people become a millionaire doing graphic design, but I said, that's not the important thing. Do what you love doing, and the money and the success will follow. So I think that's the advice I would give myself, because I look back, there are a lot of things that I wish I had done, that I had kind of shelved, put on the side, because I felt like I had to go in a certain direction. And the thing is, a lot of times you can do both. You can do the serious things, and you can do the fun things too. You just have to manage that. So I think that's the one thing I'd tell myself. But like I said, I have this conversation with my wife all the time. I say, instead of going to law school, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. She's like, well, it's easy to say now, because things are so great, that boy, I could have been a this or that. I could have been a professional trash bag manufacturer or something like that. And it's like, who knows where you would have been. But it's something I think about. But it's kind of like, it's life is like, life is good, and it's just, follow your dreams type thing. Because I think one thing I like about this country is it is the land of opportunity. There is opportunity for everybody to kind of grab that ring and go for it. It's not as easy for some as it is for others, but
it's not given to you either.
It's not given to you, and it shouldn't be given to you. And the thing is, I think I've seen a lot of success stories out there, and so you know, it's great, you know, and it's great to be able to sit here and talk about, you know, the theater and stuff like that, because in a lot of countries they can't do that.
Nope.
You know, so we're very fortunate.
No, absolutely. We are fortunate that way.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask the question we've been asking everyone.
Okay.
If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Well, first of all, I would say thank you.
You would say thank you.
Well, because getting to the pearly gates is not a guaranteed thing, right? So, I would like. First of all, I would be very grateful that I would be at the pearly gates, because I've done some things in my life I'm not proud of.
Well, so have we all.
But we won't talk about that.
But
I think having a conversation about wanting my life to have been worthwhile, wanting to have touched the lives of others in a positive way, to have made a positive impact, and to come away from it all with people having a fond memory of what you represented. Right. I think that would be the thing. And hey, to what extent did I accomplish that?
Yeah.
And to what extent have I learned from my mistakes and benefited others from you know, what I could contribute.
Sure.
So that was a little bit heavy.
No, but absolutely.
Okay. But I guess that would be it. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for
Steve,
being with us.
Thank you so much.